Welcome back to another one of my videos. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Lotta, and today I'm going to show you how to make tiramisu slices. Now, while we were traveling through Croatia during the summer, we stumbled across this really cute cafe in Zadar, which is called Kava Cake and Art, I believe. And they had these amazing and beautiful layered cakes, and one of these really inspired me, which was the tiramisu cake that they had. So their tiramisu cake was a layer of sponge cake, mascarpone filling, ladyfingers, mascarpone filling, sponge cake, and then some more mascarpone filling, and then dusted with cocoa powder. And it was super delicious. And I hadn't previously thought about using ladyfingers in the actual cake. I just usually always use my sponge cake for that. So I wanted to try this out, so we're going to make some really cool slices. Now, if you love tiramisu cake like myself, there's already a video on my channel, so if you want to watch that, it's going to be linked up there. But without further ado, let's get right into this video and make our sponge cake. Now, the very first thing we need to make is our sponge cake so we can get that cooled off. Now, we only need to make a small sponge cake because we only need to cut out 2 layers since we already have our lady fingers, which are going to be our 3rd layer. So for the sponge cake, I'm only going to be using 2 room temperature eggs, 50 grams of sugar with a pinch of salt and a splash of vanilla extract, 50 grams of flour, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Now, as per usual with our sponge cake, we're going to whisk together our eggs, sugar, salt, and vanilla until it's super light and fluffy and doubled in size before we sieve in our dry ingredients and fold that in. And once again, if you want to see a more detailed step-by-step video on how I make my sponge cake, it's going to be linked right up there. Now, I already went ahead and transferred my dough into my pre-lined square tin. So at this point, our cake can wander into the oven that's been preheated to 180 degrees Celsius or 360 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's going to bake for about 15 minutes. You basically just want the top to be nice and golden brown, and you want it to be cooked through. Now, while our cake is cooling off, we can already go ahead and make our mascarpone filling. So for that, you're going to need 350 milliliters of heavy whipping cream, 40 grams of powdered sugar, 1 good splash of vanilla extract, and of course, 500 grams of mascarpone cheese. Now, the filling comes together really fast. We're basically just going to whip up our cream to some nice stiff peaks, and in the meantime, we can already go ahead and whisk together the remainder of our ingredients. At this point, we can gently fold in our whipped cream to our mascarpone filling. At this point, I also recommend giving your filling a quick taste to see if you need to add any more sugar or vanilla or anything else. I'm going to cover this and set this into the fridge until we're ready to layer. Now, I'm just trying to measure out what size I want my slices to be. So I'm basically just using my lady fingers as a reference here. So I'm basically down to 2 options. So I either do 12 cake slices that are basically the size of a lady finger, or I use 2 lady fingers per cake slice, but then I'm left with a bit of extra sponge at the edge here, and I don't know if I want to just like use up everything. So I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Okay, I think I've decided that I'm going to do 6 thicker cake slices, so 2 ladyfingers per cake slice. And then I'm just going to trim the edges just a little bit. That way it also looks nicer on the edges and it lines up more with my ladyfingers. Okay, so we're basically just going to trim the sides just a little bit, and we're going to cut our sponge in half. Now the last thing we need to mix together is our espresso mix that we're going to use to drench our sponge layers. So for that, I'm going to be using a double shot of espresso, and I'm also going to be adding a little splash of amaretto. If you don't want any alcohol in your cake, you can definitely just leave that out. You can add some almond extract if you like instead, or just leave it with the espresso. I'm just going to transfer this into a bowl, which is just going to make dipping our ladyfingers a little bit easier. And at this point, we're ready to start layering our tiramisu slices. So I already went ahead and laid out my sponge slices. I've got my mascarpone filling in a piping bag with just a round tip, but any tip works. I've got our espresso amaretto mix, and I've got 12 ladyfingers. Any ladyfingers works. I'm using this brand just for reference, just size-wise if there's a difference, but really any ladyfinger should work. Now essentially all we're going to do is brush on some of our coffee mixture onto our sponge slice. We're going to dollop on some of our mascarpone mix, then add a layer of our ladyfingers, and then repeat the entire thing one more time. Now the last thing we need to do is give these a good dusting of cocoa powder. And there are our tiramisu slices. Now I recommend letting these sit in the fridge for 2 hours or so. That way the ladyfingers and the sponge cake are going to absorb all the moisture from the espresso and from the mascarpone, and it's going to get really nice and soft. So that's going to be everything for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, you can give me a thumbs up or write me a comment down below. And as always, the whole recipe is going to be in the description box as well. And if you're already down there and you're not subscribed, you might as well hit the subscribe button if you want to see another one of my videos every single Sunday.